Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with astrologer Shelley Overton. Hello, and welcome to the January 16th, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida. And today we're going to go over the impeachment the first time versus the impeachment the second time, and also tell you a bit about what's going on in the sky. So I recorded this all yesterday, but I had technical glitches, and just so you understand a little astrology along the way, moon was at late degrees, like 28 degrees Aquarius, and I should have taken that as a hint because nothing worked properly. The battery died halfway through, and I didn't even have my SD card inside the camera, so not a good thing. Anyway, now I've got to redo it, and so that makes it probably a little bit better for us. So we're just gonna get on with it, and I'll let you know what we got here with the charts. And if you ever have any questions about astrology, please do contact me through angeliczodiac.com or on social media, which is Instagram angeliczodiac1 and Facebook Angelic Zodiac. So we can get some answers for you as soon as we can. Okay, so I'm just looking at a bi-wheel here. Let me bring my little table in closer so I can get everything up. The first impeachment vote was December 18th, 2019 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern in Washington, D.C. The second impeachment vote was January 13th at 4:36 p.m. And I was looking at the time that the voting started and also the time that they hit the gavel down, and so those are the times I have. I'm just using 4:36 because you can do it at the beginning of the procedure when they start to take the vote, or you can do it at the end when they've culminated and found the answer. It's so close together. I think personally it's probably negligible with everything except for the moon to connect to that event. So the second trial, I'll just let you know, I'm going to put the charts up here and so you can see it as I'm talking about it. But actually I'm also, let me just real quick pull up the first impeachment chart. I've got the bi-wheel of the two together. That's the second one, darn it. I have the bi-wheel and I have the second, but I'm just going to grab the first also. Okay, there we go. Hope you're having a good day. Okay, so the first trial, we had a Leo rising, and we had Mars in Scorpio. And let's see, Mars was trining Neptune, so there was a deeper emotional upheaval with the first one. Excuse me here. Sorry, as you know, my nose itches when I do this. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, we've got Mars trining Neptune, so there's very deep emotional connectedness with everything that's going on to the people involved, and of course to the country. But Mars at 19 Scorpio is the covert. It's taking action with covert energy. Mercury was in Sagittarius that day, and the Sun was in Sagittarius. So Mercury at 14 Sagittarius was squaring Neptune, and that is a pretty significant thing for me looking at it right now. And I know I've talked about this before back when it happened, but Mercury is communication and it's our thought processes. In Sagittarius, Mercury just wants to tell it like it is. But he's squaring Neptune at 16, which means there are things that are hidden that the powers that be don't want to share. And so Neptune at 16 in the 8th house, which is Pluto's house, or the ruler of Scorpio, which is what Mars answers to in the first trial, or not even the first trial. This is the house vote. So Mars was at odds with what was going on behind the scenes, but excuse me, Mars was in trine, which I personally see as some type of event that shifts us or pushes us towards something that has to happen. And it isn't always pleasant, but ultimately it ends up for our best interests. Mercury was squaring Neptune, and so what was being said, what was being documented, because Mercury is documents, was at odds with what was going on behind the scenes politically and legally. And there were things that were not shared during that event, obviously. The sun on the first, this is December 18th, 2019, the sun was at last degrees of Sagittarius in the 5th house. So it was very much, it was in a fire house, and it was acting out, basically saying, I dare you to try. And Mercury with the sun both in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, it brings out information because it's the second sign from Scorpio. Remember, Scorpio is the first house. It's the event, action going on for the event, which would be the first house. And the second house of manifestation is Sagittarius. Sagittarius energy at the time of the first impeachment was, I dare you to try. And really Donald Trump knew that the Senate would not convict him. And so he was somewhat laissez-faire, which is a Sagittarius trait. It's kind of like, I don't really want to deal with the structures and the systems and restriction the way is commonly thought of in society. Like, you know, everybody has their rules and regulations, and Sagittarius loves freedom and loves travel and doesn't stick around long enough for, I mean, ideally, like archetypically, doesn't stick around for the fallout. And so another attribute is self-interest, and these are the darker side or the negative shadow side of Sagittarius. It's not the totality of a Sagittarius. So if you're a Sagittarius watching this saying, but I'm happy-go-lucky, it's true, you are happy-go-lucky, but the other side of you is that Scorpio energy in your 12th house. So, you know, you have a hidden dark side. And so Sagittarius, very much with this first impeachment, was, I'm not going to accept the restrictions. And then we had Jupiter at 3 degrees of Capricorn and South Node at 8. So Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So this was going ahead even if the powers that be were saying no, or not the powers that be, Trump and his administration was saying, no, I'm not going to get on board with this. And then we have Saturn in Capricorn, and he was only 2 degrees away from Pluto. And they were both in the Virgo house that day, the 6th house. And then Venus, which is a woman, and at the time, absolutely Nancy Pelosi, 28 degrees of Capricorn, the authority figure who's digging her heels in, and woman who is culminating the story around the authority structure. Saturn, Pluto, Venus, very much power around Nancy Pelosi within that structure, within the work environment. She had that power with her. On that same day, we had Uranus at 2 degrees Taurus, and that was squaring Venus. It was already in a new sign. It was not in Aries, which Aries squares Capricorn by sign. Venus was in an earth sign, and Uranus was in an earth sign. So again, we're doing the process. We're taking tangible effort towards making something happen. But Venus squared Uranus. Uranus was at the midheaven. So in the public eye, the public was not necessarily on board with what was going on. Pluto also was still within square to Uranus at that time. Saturn wasn't quite there yet, but the look of this chart, I'm an intuitive astrologer. I go by feel a lot of the time. I know the definitions of everything encyclopedically and have had many years. It's like when you know a recipe and you know what to throw in for a certain taste. Because I'm more intuitive and I'm a visual artist, I look at this chart and I see how things in an overarching sense came to be. And there's a process that goes through this chart that starts with, okay, I want to take action, Mars and Scorpio. This is a truth seeker. I will tell you, with Scorpio rising, Mars wanted to get to the heart of what was hidden, but Mars was not able to at the outset of this event. Moon at 24 degrees of Virgo on the first impeachment was saying it's a done deal in some respect. It's more because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and it's the document keeper kind of energy, analyst, intelligent document keeping. At the end degrees of Moon in Virgo was going to be the documents were kept about that event, but it didn't necessarily culminate in what was intended because it was at the last degrees of a moon in the sign. So as we move forward and we see what happened this last time, this week, there was a Cancer rising, and of course this country is a Cancer country. I actually want to bring out, let me see if I've got that chart. I want to bring out the US chart because a Cancer rising with, you know, all what's going on, of course, that's the identity of our country. And so we have to find out what exactly that relates to, how it relates with the sun, with the identity and the ego of our country. So let me just grab that and see if I can find it. United States, there we go. Okay, so I think I'm just going to put the two together. I have so many charts. I'm in the middle of doing a year-long reading for a client, and I didn't want to put it away for this podcast, so I've got a lot of different charts up here. Let me see if I can find it. Move you over. There it is. Okay, you and the US chart too. Okay, let's swap you. Okay, so in the US chart, we have so much going on behind the scenes, which I think also is a concern. We've got the Sun at 13 Cancer, Jupiter at 5 Cancer, Venus at 2 Cancer, and then Mars at 21 Gemini, all in the 12th house. So it's all hidden. Our identity, our sense of freedom, it's visceral. It's within the makeup and fabric of the country on an unconscious, subconscious level. Venus, women, mothering, and then Mars in Gemini, we are action takers, but we can also be dualistic. We can present ourselves and the actions we take in a way that aligns with what we feel as a country, but we can also do the opposite and do things that don't appear to be in alignment with the internal makeup of our country. So I find that really interesting. Let's see what else. So Pluto, again, remember Pluto is at 27 degrees for the country, 27, 33 in retrograde in Capricorn. And so that means it sits right on 27 or 24 Pluto for what's currently going on. Of course, we're a few years out, actually closer to 2 when we really start to feel this push of Pluto getting to the end of the sign. We already, well, I shouldn't say that because we're going through an impeachment, we're going through a new president, we're going through so many things as a country. Obviously that push is there, that energy of movement forward and really aligning with the storyline. And that being said, we have just come out of a very strong year, 2020, where the planets at the beginning of the year lined up opposite the planets of our country. So our country's Venus, Jupiter, Venus, Jupiter, Sun, Mercury, and Cancer. Last year we had Mercury, Sun, Pluto, and Saturn, and then a little early Jupiter all in Cancer in the early parts of the year in January. So there was an opposition energy going on with the country where we weren't going to get out of it. Honestly, looking at the charts, it's really clear when these planets, especially the slower moving planets like Saturn and Pluto, go through a part of the sky and then even in our own charts oppose the energy that's in our own charts. So we feel ripped away from what we're familiar with and disconnected, and like ripped really is the term, because here's something that you have believed in and understood to be the way things are, and then the planets transit and they come in direct opposition to the planets that you are familiar with, whether it's your country, your city, your home, or yourself. And now you have to deal with an oppositional energy that really, especially if it's opposite the sun, challenges the very fabric of who you are and how you see yourself, how you see your country. So I think that's really the takeaway from last year and what we've seen through the impeachment trial with 5 entities in the heavens in Capricorn opposing all our Cancer. We are polarized, we are contrary and challenged by the energy in the sky, but at the same time we are a Plutonic Capricorn country and a sun ego identity self image expression of Cancer home and family. And when you look at astrology, you have Cancers always looking for that structure for security and safety, and that is being challenged when you have so many planets opposing those one side of the chart. Now they're on the other. It's balancing the dynamic in some way, and it really forces us to look at who we are in our identity and what is the other. Is the other people? Is the other countries? What it could be other ideology. What is the other? And so we see that in the first impeachment vote, it is an expression of the internalization of what we've been going through in this country, which over the course of the second half of the year, when Mars entered Aries and stayed there because of the retrograde for a few months in the middle of the late summer and fall, we had all of the energy of Black Lives Matters come out and really show us that this is something we haven't looked at to heal. And the attitudes that are coming out from the impeachment on both sides are really showing us where we stand with our own integrity, with our own moral compass, and where we stand, quite honestly, with gullibility and listening to those who would say they have the ultimate answer and the final view and facts, where the facts are the facts. They're indisputable. I mean, we have videos of what's going on in the Capitol, or what went on in the Capitol. You can't dispute. The people are angry. It's a mob. They're attacking others, literally attacking others. That can't be explained away as being the fault of the victims. It's the abusers and accusers. So we're going through this upheaval with the cluster, the stellium of now Aquarian planets. So for the second impeachment trial, we have Venus at 6 degrees of Capricorn, which puts her within 3 degrees of Jupiter for the first one, and then the south node of 8 degrees in Capricorn for the first impeachment trial. So now Nancy Pelosi, representative once again of that Venus energy and what's going on, she's sitting there, instead of last time having basically no power at the 28th degree of Capricorn. Her power was taken away in some regard. She didn't have the ability to culminate the storyline through all the way through the House and the Senate. And then yet this time, she is the primary voice for the House and motivator. What's going on with, let's see, Venus, I'm just looking for it, at 6 degrees of Capricorn. Excuse me. And so she's initiating this energy. She's going forward. She's, interestingly, she's also opposite the American Venus. So we have the woman energy, and in the chart of America, Mars is the last planet before it goes into a new sign and has a new planet, which is Mars at 21 Gemini, Venus at 2 degrees Cancer. So we have like a leap between men and women going on when that dynamic is triggered, which was triggered by the sun in the first impeachment trial. So the sun, the ego, Mars, drive, bravado, honestly, in the 5th house. This time, let's just flip it around here. This time with a Cancer rising, we have Mercury at 24 degrees retrograde, which is a very important distinction for the second trial, because Mercury was direct last time, so whatever was said, whatever bravado was expressed, the country went with it. That was the common thought, or the common connection to our creativity, and it wasn't challenged because Mercury was direct. In the second impeachment trial, we have Mercury in the 1st house, and it's retrograde. And let's see, I'm trying to remember, did it go direct? No, that was the, oh no, I take it back. I switched again. Hang on. Yeah, okay, there we go. So Mercury of the country is retrograde in the 1st house. My apologies. Mercury in the chart itself for the impeachment is in the 7th house at 8 degrees. So it's about cooperation and finding a voice that connects everybody across the aisle. But not only that, Sun, Pluto, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, all in the 7th house of cooperation and balance. So I got chills with that. It's quite a different trial, or quite a different event this time, obviously. And then the other thing is where Mars is. So Mars just went in to Taurus on the 6th. So of course that was the last degrees of Aries, bringing out the insurrection and then transmuting into something tangible, where now there's more talk of taking action on the right side about capitals and challenging, and Mars is now a bit more physically abusive than before. It was more rallying of passion and, carrying the flag saying, we want war. Now they're willing to do something about it, but Mars is almost on Uranus, and Uranus is the people. It's the collective consciousness. So not only is Mars triggering more physical, tangible violence, but Uranus is making it more explosive. And that energy, Mars-Uranus, is in Taurus, squaring the Aquarian energy. And of course, Uranus rules Aquarius. And so Moon is now exactly square on the second impeachment of the house at 2 degrees Moon in Aquarius, squaring 3 degrees Mars in Aquarius. And then right in line after that, Saturn exactly on the same degree, 3 degrees 7 minutes. Mars is at 3 degrees 17 minutes, squaring. And so the action being taken, while feels like it's a freedom rally and a freedom cry, is being clamped down by the energy of Saturn and Jupiter, with the Moon being an indicator of how that culminates. What is the final verdict? And the Moon on Saturn, Moon is mother, Moon is cooperation of family. And then in the sign of Aquarius, it's how we all get along as a collective group, as a social group, and an organized group of people. So we have Jupiter at 5 degrees, also squaring Mars. So Mars and Uranus can feel quite out of step with what's going on and quite frustrated. And this is probably going to be the storyline of the year. I think that this is not going to go away necessarily right away, because Jupiter and Saturn are triggering the Uranus energy in a square in its own sign. So it is a chart of shift and change around how the structure of the people look, and whether or not we can have individual identities and agendas within the collective. And I say, yes, we can. Each individual person has to own their own stuff. That means if you're angry, you have to own you're angry. You have to be the one who says, what am I going to do about it? And that's how Black Lives Matter is moving forward, because they're the ones who are saying, you know, we're not going to take it anymore. And they're going to make something happen in a larger storyline. They're going to take the action. I mean, honestly, personally, I have so many belief systems that are culminated in this particular time. And one of them, as I've talked about before, is quantum reality. So, excuse me, we view our reality in a timeline, and every point of choice is a new timeline. So as we experience the collective identity, the collective storyline, there's a version of every one of us that agreed to view this particular movie, so to speak. And it's very much like the movie theaters are all, you know, the big quadplexes or, you know, cineplexes of 20 theaters. That's like every person's point of view being a different theater, and the people sitting in that theater are the ones that agreed to view that movie with you. And so when this particular event happens, I'm here, you're here. If you're viewing this, we have the same theater. And so we're viewing this event through the same theater. Now, there's another version of this where Donald Trump is off on his own and he won the second election. And so that theater has other people over there and versions of me and you that are aligned with that energy. But in this reality, we're aligned with the path associated with expansion and the collective going after the people who are not supporting democracy, quite honestly and quite bluntly, in my opinion. And that is the key to this country with Pluto coming back to its own position. It's challenging us to decide if we truly want the democracy that we were founded on. And these are the events that are showing themselves as one expression of that energy. So, anyway, it's interesting that now Mars is at 3 degrees, which is on Taurus, in Taurus, which is only 1 degree off of where Uranus was with the first impeachment. And I did notice the Mercury energy on the day of the impeachment trial is aligned with multiples and duality. So second impeachment trial, I thought that was rather interesting. And then Mercury, the first trial was in Sagittarius. So, you know, always the Mercury in Sagittarius is an event that really connected on some level to those of other cultures. And I believe that that event probably worked on the mindset of people from other places that live in this country, immigrants and naturalized citizens, and anyone who's trying to come into this country. It did actually have an effect on those people. And then also, we've got now Mercury at Aquarius on his own. He's ahead of the pack, which means he's running kind of out of bounds. So he's going to do his own thing. He's going to say his own thing. And that's another indicator of what's going on with the Senate, that as long as Mercury is ahead of what's going on in the Senate, ahead of the other planets, when this gets to the Senate, there will be people who are going to break with the pack, because that's the indicator of that event, of that energy. Okay, so let's put away all of this intense energy and say bye, go away. And I'm going to call on my now chart. Let's get rid of all of the other little windows associated with that and try and find what's going on now. So the now chart shows Moon is in Pisces today, and again, like I said, I already did this yesterday at 28 degrees, Moon in Aquarius. Technology didn't let me do it. I was going to go out and take care of some business. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going out till the Moon goes into Pisces. And that was 5:17 p.m. yesterday Eastern time. and everything went just fine after I did that. So now moon in Pisces can make us very emotional. I definitely felt it this morning. It's Saturday morning. I felt it with my own family situation. I think I've mentioned a couple times ago that my brother-in-law passed away, and that energy was very strong in my heart today. And Pisces will do that. The water signs are going to make us feel much more emotional and visceral about how we process events. And Neptune, of course, moon's coming up on Neptune. Neptune can bring things to a close. It brings out the water. I don't know if you can see, probably can't see too much out my window. Maybe I'm becoming more of a silhouette. It's a fairly sunny day, but we did have water yesterday. We had it overnight when the moon went into Pisces. It pretty much aligned with that, and it rained overnight. And I think I read that there's a blizzard coming through this week, or soon, maybe even this weekend. So that's a big indicator as well for weather, actual physical, real world weather. Having the moon, the indicator, join up with Neptune, and especially with Venus, Pluto, Sun, all in Capricorn today. That is an energy of the physicality of the earth, the tangible weather that we have, and it's watery and it's cold, blizzard. So that's part of what's going on in the chart today. We've got Sun at late degrees Capricorn. Of course, everything we've been going through and continue to go through. On the 19th, the day before the inauguration, that's when the Sun goes into Aquarius. So it is a pretty amazing inauguration. Quite honestly, it's going to be a lot of strife because of that square to Mars-Uranus. That is going to be aggression. That's going to be ripping at the literal fabric of this country. And I do see upheavals. I mentioned that last week, that it didn't look like it was just going to go away after the insurrection. So we've got that coming. And it's just until Mars gets past that degree and maybe even into Gemini, we're going to see more physical upheaval with how the male energy, the drive, the aggression expresses. And yes, it's in a Taurus energy. Yes, Taurus is answering to Venus, but Venus is in Capricorn. And so that's the structure and the system and the physicality of things. So it is going to be more, I would say, kind of and what is the word? I want to say editorial or opinion, but those aren't exactly what I wanted to say. But a dictum? I don't know. It's an expression of what we are feeling and coming out to be addressed. And so even though I have my opinion and it's very strong to how to deal with everything, those people are very passionate, the people who do not feel aligned with what's going on, but they have to look to their own lives as well, because they also have all the Aquarius, all the Capricorn, the moon, the emotional planets are going through their charts as well. And so they need to come to an understanding about their own feelings. And it's really difficult to understand when you're in the middle of something very emotional to understand how the bigger picture works. And I think personally, the bigger picture of what we're experiencing now is, as I've said, it's a time in our world, and specifically in our country, because we were founded with this Pluto. It's upheaval. It's looking at your darker shadow side. It's getting real with it. We have a polarization in this country of white male Americans running the show and minorities, women, and black people on the other side. And I say black, not African American, because there are people from other cultures. Like, I have a friend whose daughter's Haitian. She's not African, she's Haitian by ancestry. So there are cultures all over this world that have an influence of black in them. And so it is people of color and white males clashing to get a different energy, excuse me, in our world and in our country. This is still an amazing experiment that I think is going right, because we had clashes. We are now aware of future clashes, and we're going to right the ship. We're going to address it because it has to be addressed. We're not going to be able to move forward unless we really address why everybody is so upset. I will tell you personally, I think Fox News has a great deal to do with it, and Rupert Murdoch, and I think he promotes the storyline that is the antithesis of what this country strives to be. And I think our country, the heart of our country, strives to be inclusive and strives to be on the cutting edge of social change. And that's where we're at. We're on the edge of social change. So we're going to continue to have more of this. Anyway, so we've got Venus at 10 degrees. We've got an early energy of Venus, so she's going to be there for the month of January. She exits at the end of the month, last couple days, and then goes into Aquarius. So we really are in the Aquarius energy for the next month. And Mercury does go retrograde. I think he gets into Pisces and goes retrograde. Jupiter will hit Pisces coming up in May. And so it's a very fast moving Jupiter, and Aquarius is a very fast intellectual sign. So we're going to see a lot of things happen fast. I mean, this year and probably for the next 5 years specifically, it's going to move really quickly and change. Okay, let's see here. So this week coming up, tomorrow is Sunday. Jupiter directly squares Uranus tomorrow. So this is an energy of movement, of course. Jupiter, again, as I've said, it rules Sagittarius. It rules the energy of travel and immigrants, immigration, communication in a sense of different languages. It's education. It's people moving like en masse, especially in Aquarius. I think this coming year we're going to see a lot more of that, of everybody going, you know, this isn't where I need to be. I need to go somewhere else for whatever reason, whether it's climate or energy or ease of work, whatever it may be, family. We're going to move a great deal, like multiple times. I think this year absolutely is going to be a shift where, I mean, I personally am experiencing this. This is not where I'm going to land. This is a process for me of experiment, experience, growth, shift and change in my life based on my family, because the Aquarius energy falls in my house, home, and family. And so there are a lot of moving parts with people in my family. Also, my sister is probably going to move in the next couple months. I'm going to move in the next few months. My daughter moved away and is moving back. Oh, by the way, she just got accepted to the college of her choice in Orlando, so she's very excited. So she'll be moving back. People are moving, and that is what Jupiter in Aquarius is. And Saturn in Aquarius is trying to make sense of it all. And I really do feel for Capricorns and Geminis. I mean, Geminis are probably getting a little, I mean, yes, they went through hell. My sister is a Gemini. She's been through hell. And now Saturn's in Aquarius, which is their sign. My sister is a Aquarius Saturn. I have Saturn in Aquarius by progression. So those of you who have that Saturn in Aquarius are going to experience probably more expansion around life purpose and a deeper meaning to things, even though Aquarius is a sign of intellectual curiosity, and so the expansion comes from always seeking out new ideas and new information. And so we're going to see that. But Saturn, when it goes forward, it wants to understand, it wants to organize, which is really difficult for Aquarius. So we're going to see structures that are very changeable now. Saturn in Capricorn, those structures aren't changing for a good long time. Now they are. In Aquarius, it's about the malleability of how we play with ideas and what we do with those ideas in a tangible sense, but not necessarily a lasting sense. So yeah, it's for those of us, this is kind of what I wanted to say warn. I did somewhat warn about the energy of Aquarius not being reliable. It is meant to be changeable. So those of us who insist on things being never changing, I can think of my parents. It is changeable, and it always will be changeable, because you'll never escape Aquarius and the Aquarian part of the sky. It's a given. So we go through the tangible physical structures that seem immobile, and then we go into the energy of things that don't stay solid and don't stay rooted. So wherever it falls in your chart, that's where you're experiencing it now. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. I actually like the energy of Aquarius. I have strong Aquarian energy in my chart, and I really think that, and I explained this to my mother, I may have explained it in another podcast, but when you have people taking full ownership of who they are, you have less need to give away the power to an overarching body that makes decisions on behalf of the collective, and giving away power to the hierarchy, which is Capricorn. Aquarius is about saying, I don't need you to give me all these rules and regulations, because I am responsible for myself, which Saturn is showing us how to do. So I don't think until Pluto gets to Aquarius will we truly understand the nature of owning our turf in the collective and having our own energetic bubble that isn't swayed to be something that it's not, but yet fully immerses in the collective idea while maintaining individuality. That's where we're heading. That's the ideal Aquarian age. But it is very much about collectivism and finding your people, but also knowing that even with your people, there's a greater structure of the collective. So, yeah. Anyway, this week we've got that square between Jupiter and Uranus, so that's going to be probably more acting out and more, you can't stop me, I'm going to do this, and makes it very uncomfortable for the Taurians of the zodiac, let me tell you. Moon enters Aries at 2:07 a.m. Eastern on Monday, and we've got Moon squaring Venus on Tuesday, which is probably Nancy Pelosi needs to be very aware of her safety on that day. At 3:40 p.m. Eastern, 12:40 p.m. Pacific, the Sun enters Aquarius on the 19th. Can be explosive, definitely ego associated with ideas bursting forth, and so I think that that can be a very explosive intellectually and physically energy that comes into what we're experiencing right now. And then of course the inauguration is Wednesday, with Sun entering Taurus at 1:56 p.m. and Mars joins up with Uranus at 3:38 p.m. Eastern. The Moon squares the Sun at 4:02 p.m. Eastern, and the Moon squares Saturn at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be riotous. The next day, Moon joins with Mars and Uranus in Taurus. So I think we may even have the peak of the insurrection energy hitting the day after, with that Moon conjunct Mars in Taurus. And then of course that's also money. So I think that will definitely affect stock markets. If we see acting out, Moon squares Jupiter at 5:15 on Thursday, and I don't know if I said Monday, I meant Thursday, the day after inauguration. And then on Friday, Mars squares Jupiter in Aquarius. So I think that has to do with some energy of pulling people back out of foreign countries with the military, but also yeah, Mars rules the military, don't forget that. So there's going to be a clash probably on an international front of ideology as well, and that may or may not include America. It's a global energy we're all experiencing, so we're going to see some of that. Anyway, that's what I have for you this week. I know it's pretty intense. It is a time of upheaval, but also I think a positive time of growth of our awareness and knowledge of what is real and what is not real, and how we can harness our intellect and harness our ideas and make them the kind of future we want. And I really do encourage this world and anyone watching this, that if you keep your mind back to the positive, try and pull yourself back from, what do they call it, grief scrolling, or I don't know, the scrolling of constant difficult news stories, and bring it back to what you want to see. I think you will experience that. That is the beauty of quantum reality. You will increase what you focus on, so focus on the positive. And with that, I will see you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, shelleyoverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompatech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.